Hello, everyone. My name is Brian Wong. This is Next Big Future. Today, I'm covering the competition in the electric vehicle space, which Tesla currently dominates, but which there's a big confusion around whether it be Tesla killers or whether Tesla is going to kill its competitors. So who will outcompete whom? And a lot of confusing information. Hopefully, we can clarify that over today's video. So Tesla's current lead is double to triple the next competitor. So in Q1, Tesla had 310,000 vehicles, and Shanghai Automotive had 154,000, but that's only double. Why do I say triple? And because that Shanghai Automotive has a joint venture with GM, where they make $5,000 golf cart like EVs, literally golf cart like EVs that can drive on China's roads. BYD, the next larger competitor in terms of battery electric vehicles, in terms of unit sales, has 144,000, about half of what Tesla has. They often get quoted a higher number, which is doubling up because they have plug-in hybrids, which, a gas engine combined with a very tiny battery engine. But their vehicles are about half to 1/3 the cost of Tesla's cars. So overall, the BYD's revenue is about 1/6. Tesla 6 times more revenue in electric cars than BYD does. Volkswagen and Hyundai sell vehicles with similar pricing to Tesla, and they are about at 98,000, 81,000 globally. So about 1/3 of what Tesla has. If you go in dollar volume, Volkswagen and Hyundai are second and third to Tesla. If you go on unit sales, not counting the super cheap vehicles, then you're looking at BYD being second. And profitability-wise, Tesla's the only one profitable. BYD may not be profitable because their revenue has gone down as their electric vehicle has gone up, which suggests that their net income has gone down when their electric vehicle units have gone up substantially over the last few years. They're previously making more money on their plug-in hybrids, and all their vehicles is only less than half of their revenue. They make more from cell phone batteries and parts and pure battery sales than they do from electric vehicles or even plug-in hybrid vehicles. So if you look at the electric car numbers, you often see a chart like this from Bloomberg New Energy, but this includes plug-in hybrids, which is about 20% or 30% depending on which market you're looking at. So a little over 6 million vehicles in 2021, only about 4.5 million are active battery electric vehicles. And a large chunk of those, a third to half of China's market is for really cheap vehicles. Tesla is really only competing in for 20%, maybe 30% of China's vehicle market because of the pricing. And they're probably only going for half of the European market because of if you segment out by pricing. Because you wouldn't say that BMW is competing against a Civic, because you're talking about, double the price. Similarly, they're not in the same market when you're talking about an ultra cheap, less than $10,000 Chinese vehicle. So we look at some pricing here based on the actual models. The Model Y and Model 3 are the number 1, number 2 vehicles. Then you next have the Wuling Hongguang Mini, which is that Shanghai Automotive vehicle, Shanghai/GM vehicle, which is a super cheap vehicle. And then some things in blue are the plug-in hybrids. So skip over those. Cherry QQ is another cheap vehicle, also $5,000, Cherry QQ ice cream. So number 3 and number 4 are these cheap vehicles, another plug-in hybrid. Then you get the Volkswagen ID4, about 10,000 vehicles, about 8 times less than the Model Y. Hyundai Ioniq 5, also about 10,000. Then you get the Chang'an Benny, a $10,000 vehicle, not competing. BYD Dolphin, less than 20,000, although they're looking to sell that for $35,000 in Australia. called an ADO. The Han EV, that one is close to the pricing of in specs of a Model 3, Model Y, $33,000 to $39,000. The BYD Han Plus is about just under $30,000. So competitive. The GAC Ion Y, I think that's about $20,000. Xpeng is competing with comparable prices to and specs to Tesla. Again, another plug-in hybrid. So if you look at all this, these top 20 vehicles, excluding the ones that aren't electric vehicles, excluding the ones that are super cheap, Tesla is looking at about 50% market share of the top 20 vehicles for electric cars. So if you just look at what is actually competing, in that price range for electric vehicles, Tesla has a very large share, more than the typical quoted numbers of like 20% or something like that, which is counting electric vehicles that aren't in the price range that Tesla is looking at. So the other thing is that, so when we look at who's competing, who's killing what, is that Tesla has 72% market share in the United States, where people are buying, always buying similar price vehicles to the Model Y, Model 3. And then lower market share in China, where only 20% of the market is for electric vehicles is competing. Tesla's competing for based on price, and then half of the European market is what Tesla's competing for. And the other thing in the European market is that Tesla's handicapped by about $50,000 price difference because of import duties, which will be going away as the Berlin factory ramps up more and more this year and next year. Also, a delivery charge, shipping the vehicles, $2,000, that goes away too. So the Tesla will be far more competitive in Europe, as instead of paying $80,000, it pays $60,000, something like that for a vehicle. And the pricing of it is that something to bear in mind, the last 2 years has changed. There's been inflation in with supply chain other issues in new car pricing, used car pricing. So what used to cost $37,000 now costs $47,000. So when Tesla increased the Model 3 prices, whatever, from $40,000 to $50,000, they've only just been keeping pace with the overall industry price increases. Europe prices are mostly around $30,000 to $40,000 range. So cheaper, 20%, 30% cheaper than the EVs and cars in general that the US buys. And then like China, like I said, only a small segment is at the higher end pricing. So if you find the information useful, please like and subscribe. I have a lot more presentation to go, but just as a reminder to help with the algorithm, if you can like and subscribe and support me on Patreon, that'd be very helpful. So China sales, like I said, about 1/3 are the $700 Cherry QQ Wulang Mini, and then the 250K and over RMB, that's the 38K and up, which is what the Tesla is competing for. That's 20% of the market. So of the 2.9 million battery electric vehicles sold in 2021 in China, 508,000, 20%, were directly Tesla competitive, and Tesla sold 320,000 of those. It's about 55% market share. So when you compare apples to apples, in the US, Tesla has 72% of the BEVs. In China, 55% of the higher end EVs. And in Europe, Tesla market share is somewhat less, probably only 20% of the price competitive market. But Tesla is going to get far more price competitive in Europe with the Berlin factory opening. China's going to be changing quite a bit. They're ramping up, going from about 25-30% battery electric vehicles this year, and should head to 80% by 2025, 2026. They follow the Norway growth from 20% to 80% electric vehicles. So calculating this out, if Tesla maintains the 55% market share of those expensive vehicles, then they should have 2.4 million. Tesla should have 2.4 million car sales in 2025, 2026 in China. If Tesla can get down to $30,000 to shave off $20,000 off their lowest price vehicle. Battery efficiency, gigapress, other things, perhaps they can get the Model 3 and Model Y down toward that price range. They'd be able to double their addressable market in China and possibly sell up to nearly 5 million vehicles in China alone. 2028, China can probably go to 100% battery EVs. And then also the number of people buying more expensive vehicles probably increases as China people get wealthier. So that could increase the amount of vehicle sales possible for Tesla by maintaining share to 4.5 million for just the 30. If they are addressing the 30K and over car market instead of just under 5 million back in 2025, 2026. This is just to show that the average price of different car models that have occurred from 2021 to 2022, and shows that Tesla's pricing, although higher, is still in line with Ford, BMW, et cetera. It's not that out of step with them. The S and the X, which are $100,000 vehicles, they restarted the production after they made new model refreshes. And in Q1, they were up to 14,000 vehicles in the quarter. So about 60,000 per year. Hopefully get that up to about 100,000 or more. And this is the battery electric vehicle market in China in 2021. When we exclude out the plug-in hybrids and the super cheap vehicles, see that Tesla, in Tesla here, we're including their exported vehicles to just the China production comparison. So about almost 5 times more production than XPeng and NIO. And then there's a WM Motors, and then about 50% more than BYD in terms of just pure battery electric vehicles. And then EV competition in the US, Model Y and Model 3 are top vehicles, and they have substantially more production than the Ford Mustang Mach-E or the Hyundai Kia vehicles. And it's possible with the S and the X ramping up and the Cybertruck coming online next year, if those are at 25,000 per quarter, 10,000, 15,000 each of the S and X, they could pass the Mach-E in quarterly sales. So these kind of global electric vehicle market share numbers saying 14%. Again, these are including plug-in hybrids and cheap vehicles. So it's not apples to apples. So it's going back to that market share. Here's the actual numbers: 114,000 combined S and X, Y, and 3 vehicles for all Tesla. Combine the Kia and the Hyundai. So Tesla had 72% market share, and then about 45,000. So 1/3 of the non-Tesla share vehicles in the US are Kia and Hyundai. 8% are Ford. And they can ballpark what will happen for the rest of the year with either the targets in the third column or just doing a 5x of Q1. 5x Q1 is multiplied by 4 to get the quarters 5, because Q1 tends to be lower production than Q4 and Q3, et cetera. So they can do a 5x. So depending on how the ramps go will be what will happen. But Tesla should be able to maintain share through 2022 and could grow it more as the Austin factory ramps up for next year. And then Europe, like the Model 3, Model Y ahead also in Europe and in Q1. Where here we look at some Europe figures where they break out battery electric vehicles versus plug-in hybrids. You can see that in the third column that the Model 3 seems almost 4 times as much as the third place Fiat, and the Model Y is 3 times more than the third place Fiat. And this is before the Berlin factory for Tesla ramps up to make Tesla cars more price competitive. So I think it's possible that with the Berlin factory ramp 2023, 2024, that Tesla could get to 50% share of the $40,000 plus market, which would be about 25% of the overall battery electric vehicle market in Europe. But Tesla could double the addressable market in China and Europe with a lower cost EV. So that those markets are far more price sensitive and want to have smaller vehicles, more expensive vehicles. Those are demand. Cybertruck actually triples the possible U.S. sales if, in terms of addressable market, but they may need a cyber SUV or cyber van variants of the Cybertruck. So then, summing that all up, we're looking at, quite likely 8 million units sold for Tesla in 2025, and possibly 16 million in 2025. Depending on, really successful ramp up of the Cybertruck and lowering the cost of their vehicles with gigapresses, better batteries, et cetera, to get to a lower cost vehicle that is still high margin and that may or may not be the 25K car. And this shows that the light truck, which is a combination of trucks, SUVs, and pickups, that would be a dominant part of the U.S. market share in 2021, which showed the importance of Cybertruck for the U.S. market. Far less important for China and for Europe for that kind of truck, SUV, heavy vehicle market. And then a few slides show these competing vehicles. So you can look at them, see the Dolphin's more of a compact car, and the Han is more like a Model 3 / Model S in styling. And the Wan is more of a compact SUV, so more like a Model Y. X-Paint with their vehicles, P7, again, we're a competitive vehicle. And then you have the Volkswagen ID4 and the Honda, and then the Kia EV6. So next few slides just show that Tesla still has an advantage in terms of core efficiency, which is kilowatt hours divided by hundreds of miles of range divided by thousands of pounds of weight. So the more range you have, the more weight you have, the more batteries you need. So you need to adjust the efficiency by dividing by range and weight. And Tesla's in the 5.2 for the 5.2285, almost 5.3 figure for the Model X, the Model 3, and the Model Ys are in the 5.4 range for the most efficient version model, and then you can go as high as 6.2 for a high performance vehicle, where you want more speed, acceleration, and want to sacrifice some efficiency for that. And this tends to be 30 or 40% better than all competitors. The closest competitors are BMW, with a 6.2 core efficiency, less acceleration, but getting more competitive. Give them 20% of Tesla, even 10, 15%. And the Hyundai Kias are also getting pretty core efficient, but they sacrifice acceleration badly on that. But core efficiency wise, they're competing. BMW, Volvo, Porsche are not really competitive. Efficiency, the Bolt and the Ford Mach-E are not in the same range. And also we know from the Ford CEO that he said in May 2022 that the Mach-E had an $18,000 battery pack. So trying to calculate that out, it seems to be $7,000 to $13,000 more expensive than the battery pack for Tesla. So we see that the other car makers are still a long way off in terms of being competitive in terms of battery cost and efficiency. Rivian's coming up relatively close, but still behind Tesla core efficiency. And then BYD, the China numbers need to be adjusted because the range of the Chinese car industry, they use an NEDC number, which is about 20%, 25%, 30% inflated number compared to how the EPA in the US test their vehicles. So you have to compare range for Chinese models by Chinese regulators in order to get to their core efficiency number. So then the Model Y for Tesla ended up being about 4.4 to 5 for the 5.3 for their core efficiency, which is about 30, 40% better than the BYD vehicles. Although I think the BYD Han is quite close, perhaps only 10% away from the Model Y. So EV trucks is tiny volumes, 2,500 vehicles made in Q1 for Rivian, 1,200 delivered, 400 Hummer EVs built in Q1. They have the targets of 25,000, 46,000 vehicles. I don't think they're going to make that there. So Rivian, GM, and Ford are getting out some truck EVs this year with tiny volumes. Tesla, if they can get a good ramp on their Cybertruck for 100,000 or more next year, they can leap up and get to 50% market share in 2023. And then, depending on how well they ramp, they can continue to do better with that. So first mover going to Rivian, GM, and Ford for their electric vehicles, trucks, is something that Tesla can't overcome because they have a lot of demand for their Cybertruck. But they need to roll it out and ramp it up in production, just like Rivian, GM, and Ford do. None of them have shown that they can ramp up to significant volumes yet with electric cars, electric trucks. So based on the 11 million roughly in that light truck SUV category, Tesla probably need 2 million per year for 20% of the final. When you go to 100% EV truck, large SUV segment in the US, and 4 million to get to 40% of the final thing. So we'll see how well that ramps in the late 2020s. So there'll be a delay of 4 or 5 years, I think, for the US to get to that, because the US wants heavier trucks and SUVs. Helping all of the EVs to edge out ICE, the combustion engine vehicles, is a high price of gasoline. Basically, it's adding $10,000 to $15,000 for the 5-year cost of ownership for gas vehicles compared to electric. So there was already huge amount of back orders for electric vehicles, and that's just going to increase because of this huge price of gasoline. Something else that's maybe gone unnoticed by many people is that the Model Y and Model 3 became the top-selling vehicles of any kind, having about 30% more sales than the Toyota RAV4 in Q1. And that's before the Texas factory had really ramped up at all. So next year, Tesla could double production or more from Fremont and Texas. So that should allow them to continue to get even more market share in the US. And we see this more detailed look at the adoption curve, which is that the next 3 or 4 years is when we go from 20% or so up to 60-80% and the electric vehicle demand explodes. It's already been happening. Looking more details at the US market, we see that in this list of the top 12 vehicles does not include the Model 3, Model Y, which each sold about 50,000, which would put them in 12th and 13th place ahead of the Corolla. And then you see the large vehicles. So you see that Cybertruck, if they can kill the Ford F-Series, the Ram, the Chevy Silverado, and those other heavy vehicles, can get to 2 million per quarter. And the Tesla can triple sales from 100,000, but they can kill the RAV4, Camry, CR-V, and Jeep Cherokee, and other cars in that segment. Look at margin. So Tesla's about 19% operating margin from Q1, which is almost double Mercedes and BMW, and almost triple Ford, and it's actually over triple BMW. Oh, sorry, Volkswagen. Tesla's growth in Germany, 3-4 times. So going to the aspect of who will kill who, Tesla killers versus Tesla killing other vehicles, competitors. The growth in Germany would argue that Tesla will kill competitors, that competitors will have to combined compete perhaps half of all vehicles if Tesla can, is successful in the new segments of Cybertruck or a lower cost vehicle than competitors have been. All these vehicles that are only getting a couple percentage of market share, were all touted as Tesla killers, and that not happened. So the key advantage that Tesla has is that Tesla has built battery and got battery contracts and has EV capacity. They'll ramp further and ramp fast. So that's one of the things now, is that all competitors must ramp their EV production quickly in order to grab the market share from a rapidly growing market. Tesla's supercharger network is vastly superior and building up faster. So that means that you have to worry as much about range anxiety, because you don't have to stay near home, because you can get to a charging network so you can travel cross country without worries. And Tesla is best positioned along with BYD because they can use iron LFP batteries. The efficiency advantage of 24% more efficiency means that you can use iron LFP batteries, which are a little less energy dense than nickel, and still get 300-mile range, while some with 20% less efficiency is down in the 180 to 220-mile range for their vehicles, the same battery. And just tossing in more batteries for a bigger pack, it gets diminishing returns because you have to move the heavy batteries around. So here's the performance, and you just can't say, I'm just going to double up on our batteries in order. And then it also hurts your ability to sell it at a profit because you're doubling the cost of your batteries by putting twice as many batteries in. So that's Tesla is more profitable, and the efficiency enables them to further increase their margins by being able to use iron LFP batteries, which over half of the vehicles that Tesla is selling are iron LFP batteries. The battery supply that Tesla has is still booming, which is important because you need to be able to have more batteries in order to make vehicles. EV production can be viewed as converting a supply of batteries into a finished product of a battery vehicle. And then there was a sharp ramp up at the end of last year with CATL's increased battery supply. And then more about that ramp up of going from 30% up to 80% in vehicles for China. Tesla will also go beyond regular electric vehicles. With full self-driving getting very close, they have over 100,000 beta testers. Full self-driving could double to quadruple the profitability of Tesla vehicles, even without robotaxi. So where it's still just a really, really good driver assist system, if they get it so that it works in, as well in China on US roads, and it's getting so that you don't need to monitor it as much. Even if you say, okay, you still have to monitor it, if it gets very, very trustworthy, then the adoption rate can go up from 10% to 50%. So that in terms of like 1 in 10 buyers to 1 in every 2 buyers get it, then that revenue really shoots up, where half the people are paying $12,000, $14,000 for FSD, then the profitability of all vehicles goes up by $7,000, which is nearly double the amount of profit that Tesla has. So I said full self-driving being near 100,000 beta tests already. Elon's talked about getting to 1 million FSD beta testers by the end of 2022. So Q4 could see a general release, which would then recognize the revenue accounting-wise, so that $2 billion of deferred revenue, we said, okay, we haven't given you all the features yet. We'll say, okay, we'll now recognize the rest of that revenue because we give you all the features. So that's what a general release would mean: far more profitability at one time, and going forward would be more profitability, and would likely increase sales because people wouldn't have to wait to get it. So we may get some information September 30th with the second AI day. And there's been YouTube videos showing the FSD beta 10.12 is a big improvement over previous versions, and there's a new version 10.13 coming out. the improvements seem to be accelerating, one with more data, more testers, enabling faster improvement because it's all about data, getting more edge cases solved, and then going to a single stack software where one version of the software solves all the different types of driving. So instead of one version for parking lots, one version for highway, one version for regular roads, you have one system that does everything, which is kind of similar to the AI program AlphaGo, which had a Go version of the software, a chess version of the software, and then some of the software for StarCraft, a video game, and they merged them all together into one superior system. So that's something that happens in AI. And here's the graph of full self-driving success without robotaxi, where increased adoption rate, increased car sales could rapidly shoot up the revenue, and full self-driving revenue is actually almost all profit because of the software service. So full self-driving, even without robotaxi, better and better FSD, more people want it, and you can get it right away. So summarizing, Tesla could get to 40 to 75% market share in various segments and regions where they compete. Already has 75% holding that share in the US, 55% of the premium cars in China, and we'll see how much Tesla can get a European market share when they get their Berlin factory ramped. 3 million per year in 2025, we get to about 25% market share. 5 million per year, we get to about 40%. But they need to get a lower cost, not necessarily 25,000 a vehicle, but at least 30,000 a vehicle probably, to double the addressable market in Europe and China. And the Cybertruck is really very important for the US and North American markets. And Tesla's continue to lower cost, increase the advantage in core efficiency with the GigaPress, which reduces the weight and the battery improvements that they have. So as others gain close to this core efficiency, Tesla's about to kick in another gear with their GigaPresses, which others are not doing yet. They have to chase after Tesla for that. So 2025, with the GigaPresses, better batteries, lower cost batteries, a further $5,000-$10,000 price cost advantage with lower prices could get Tesla that larger addressable market where they get below the average selling price of cars. So the EV truck summary, if 22 targets hit, you might have 90,000 Ford, Lightning, GM combined Rivians, but they may only get to 40,000, 30,000. And then Cybertruck next year. So getting the Cybertruck introduced next year and then wrapping. So that's will be where the US market is mostly decided, is with Cybertrucks / cyber SUVs, cyber vans, the larger form factor EVs. So then depending on how well that rolls out, 40% market share could be possible in the late 2020s because it's a delayed ramp because you had to make a bigger vehicle. And then Tesla had the advantage of FSD, manufacturing, supercharging efficiency. So that's the case I would make, that the Tesla will kill a lot of competition with the advantages that they have to continue to outproduce competitors. And they're still the only profitable EV company. And they're growing the margins, and they continue to increase efficiency with gigapresses, lowering weights, constant improvement of the vehicles, 20 improvements per week. It's something that they have in the factories. So again, making vehicles, EVs, turning batteries into cars, and you need to have batteries, and you need factories to turn batteries into cars. And you need to continue to have high profitability in order to pay for this continued expansion. So I think there'll be less US decline, and Cybertruck will produce in volume to which more by outproducing Rivian, Ford, and GM in terms of their ramp up. And you need low-cost EVs or robotaxi for low-cost markets like China, Europe, India. So I'm thinking of a bear case, about 8 million Tesla vehicles in 2025, and a bull case of 16 million vehicles. And the breakdown in terms of like where China or Europe or US will get the vehicles in terms of the price segments, and Tesla competing in them, and also the truck segment for the US. So this works out, having the 8 million to 16 million end up being about 50% more than the roughly 5 million vehicles that Gary Black was targeting for 2025. Gary Black is the head fund, future fund, and but if Tesla can get to 16 million, that'd be about 300% more than what Gary Black is looking at. So, and then also if you get to FSD, that would be doubling that revenue. So triple production numbers and higher FSD numbers, could increase Tesla's earnings per share by about 6 times what Gary Black was looking at for 2025. So the future will tell on what happens in the next 3-4 years for Tesla's competitors. So in terms of Tesla killers, Tesla kills competition, I believe that Tesla will kill most of its competition as they get into more segments, lower price segments for China and Europe, and the truck SUV segment for the United States. So please like and subscribe and support me on Patreon, and we'll talk to you next time. Thank you.